wildfire. It only takes a spark. It's one of the most powerful and destructive forces on the planet, and it can start with just a spark. Many sources can cause wildfires. Natural wildfires can occur during times of drought, combined with lightning strikes that ignite dry grass or brush. But this scenario accounts for less than 10% of all wildfires. The remaining wildfires are due to some form of human contribution. In the United States, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. Early stage fire will double its size every 60 seconds. A large wildfire can generate hurricane-force winds of up to 120 miles per hour. Active burning fires can have temperatures of over 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. At approximately 1,100 degrees, steel will start to fail. At this point, control is impossible. All any fire needs to start is 3 critical elements: oxygen, fuel, and heat or an ignition source. Oxygen and fuel are already present. We need to exercise extreme caution not to provide the heat source. What can those sources be? A carelessly discarded cigarette? A spark or just excessive heat from the engine exhaust of a truck or chipper, or any motorized piece of equipment. An electrical short. A loose chain on a chainsaw. A spark created by a piece of metal like a chain, track web, or blade hitting another piece of metal or a rock. A spark from a chainsaw exhaust. Debris in the auxiliary engine compartment or hydraulic compartments. We just touched on sources of sparks. Now we're going to discuss sources of fuel. Consider the following: dirt or debris around hot hydraulic hoses, or debris in the engine compartment, or around a hot exhaust. Also, consider what fuel may be under those components. On high fire danger days, be especially vigilant. Officials may restrict certain activities, including our operations, when conditions are extreme. Extra care must be taken to avoid providing the ignition or heat source to start a fire, especially during times when the danger level is high. Take into account local conditions and any stated fire danger levels, in other words, moderate, high, very high, extreme, etc. Be aware of fuel load, weather, and topography. All crew members shall be briefed daily of local conditions. What can you do to help prevent wildfires? Do not smoke in fire-prone areas. Do not park vehicles over dry grass or other flammable material. Keep your equipment in good operating conditions. Monitor tracks or chains for sparks created when contacting metal or rocks. Consider posting a fire watch person when in remote areas during elevated fire danger levels. And inspect spark arresters daily. Here's how.
This is a inspection of the spark arrestor on a chainsaw. You want to make sure that you take a good look at it. The pen there is pointing to where the spark arrestor is on this specific saw. You want to make sure it's not pitchy, dirty. If it's all plugged up, you want to take it out and clean it. You can clean it with some parts cleaner or a wire brush or whatever you might have handy or works for you. But the main thing is that the spark arrestor is on, intact, and clean.
In addition, be aware that chainsaws can be extremely hot when they are lowered to the ground. Avoid lowering hot chainsaws into dry vegetation. Make sure that fire extinguishers are fully charged, in place, and operational. Also, in some areas of the country, personal fire extinguishers are required at certain elevated fire danger levels. Refer to your region plan for details. Assure that required firefighting tools as designated by the region policy are in good condition and readily available. If crew members are working away from vehicles, assure that the firefighting tools are close at hand. Remember that firefighting tools are only to be used for firefighting. Fire tools are used to separate one of the required elements from the other two. Separate the oxygen by smothering with dirt or flame-resistant cover. Separate the heat with water. Separate the fuel by raking it away or shoveling, or use a combination of all three of these methods. What can be done to help prevent wildfires? Fuels and tools capable of igniting fires shall not be left unattended on the right-of-ways. Fuel and flammables shall be stored in approved and labeled containers. Chainsaws shall be moved 10 feet away from the fueling area before starting. When possible, chainsaws should be tested and warmed up and started in areas cleared of flammable vegetation. At least one fire suppression tool and one fire extinguisher shall be no closer than 10 feet and no further than 50 feet from the fueling station. Be sure to remove dry debris from around the work area. That eliminates the fuel needed by an errant spark. Tools and equipment shall not be fueled while they are running or when the tool and equipment are hot. Cool down time must be used to allow the tool or equipment itself to no longer be considered a source of ignition. Look for and move at least 10 feet away from the ignition sources. Combustible debris should be cleared from the immediate area. Never smoke while fueling or operating gas-powered tools.
Here we're going to demonstrate proper fueling of a chainsaw in a cleared area of the vegetation. Notice that the employee is making sure there's no gasoline or fuel spilled in and around the site. Everything's going into the tank in an approved OSHA safety can. As he fills it, he's making sure he fills it up to proper point and then pulls it out, not to spill any gas or fuel all over the vegetation, and replace the cap.
Again, at least one fire suppression tool and one fire extinguisher shall be no closer than 10 feet and no further than 50 feet from the fueling station. After fueling, be sure to close the fuel containers and wipe off the equipment from any spills. You must be at least 10 feet from the fueling area before you start the tool or equipment that was fueled. Be aware of hot or overheated brakes. Avoid parking equipment in tall, dry grass or weeds that may contact the wheels, exhaust, motor, transmission, or rear end. Other considerations might include flagging hazards in the right-of-way to avoid contacting them during mowing operations, placing welding blankets under hot exhaust, and placing smoking material in a half-empty water bottle for safe disposal. What can be done? Do not conduct hot work, welding, grinding, metal cutting, etc. on areas of grass, weeds, or leaves. Work must be performed on dirt, gravel, paved, or concrete surface clear of any flammable material. An employee must be posted on fire watch for a minimum of 30 minutes after the completion of any hot work. Absolutely no uncontrolled outages or sparks created by bringing wires together. Electrical arcs and sparks can be hot enough to melt metal. Do not approach downed energized lines. On another note, open fires should not be allowed. Fires can be created by employee cook stoves. Cook stoves are not permitted in certain parts of the country. Refer to your region plan for details. Do not compromise your safety. Stay together and work as a team. If a fire starts, make every effort to put it out or prevent it from spreading. When a fire's small, you'll have a better chance of keeping it under control. Remember that a sudden shift of wind can affect the speed and direction of a fire. Do not compromise your safety. Stay together and work as a team. If the fire is taller than you, has jumped to the tree crowns, or otherwise cannot be safely controlled, stop firefighting efforts and get to a safe place. Any fire must be immediately reported to local authorities and to your supervisor.
Emergency services, what's your emergency?
Emergency services is going to need some basic information. Your name, exact location, and a contact phone number. Also information on the status of the fire, weather conditions, and possibly customer information. Your job briefing would be an excellent tool to use for reference during this call, should you ever have to make it. Don't hang up. Let emergency services end the call. And remember that sign you put out at the beginning of the job? That can be a great tool for helping emergency services locate you if you are in a remote area. And most of all, be sure that you have read and fully understand your region's wildfire prevention plan. If the plan has not been reviewed with you, contact your general foreperson immediately. The plan shall be reviewed with each affected employee annually. Have a sign-off sheet for all affected crew members and placed on file. A copy of the plan shall be distributed to all crews. A copy of the plan shall be kept on each crew truck. All employees are required to review and be knowledgeable of the wildfire plan. They must know and understand the rules and laws that apply to ignition sources and fire in the area where they will be working, and copies of those laws must be provided to the crews working in the areas where and when the laws apply. Everyone shall know the fire condition classifications and how to obtain them. This may vary from region to region. All employees shall know the fire condition classification for the area and time that they're working. They'll know and adhere to smoking policies. Everyone will know and adhere to the equipment rules and regulations pertaining to fire prevention. Know and adhere to fueling procedures. Region should implement a system to monitor the wildland fire danger level and advise field operations accordingly. There may be times where certain woodland operations are not permitted, such as the use of chainsaws or off-road equipment. Regions must check the fire danger level and ensure that restrictions on work activities are implemented that are appropriate for the hazard condition. There are certain documentation requirements that need to be met. The training, enforcement, and audit responsibilities must be assigned to a responsible person. The timeline for communication and training of the plan, as well as distribution of tools, must be noted in the plan as well. The region manager is responsible for signing the Region Wildfire Plan Appendix A. Upon completion of your training, you're required to sign the training roster, Appendix B, which will be provided by your instructor or your general foreperson. Remember, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by some form of human contribution. It only takes a spark.